What's up, guys? Very special podcast, Awaken with JP. He's a coach, he's a comedian, he's a professional YouTuber, and we had him on the show, and we just really took it down the comedy way. So, although there is some talk about spirituality in our paths, we really talked a lot about stand-up comedy and comics, and it was really fun. Like, this was the funnest one. We were laughing and joking around a lot, so you will have a blast. A special podcast, too, because this is the first one I've recorded while being back in London, and also the first one where the guest wasn't with me in person. But I really love in person, so if any of you guys know somebody who's in London or in the UK who would be an amazing guest, please let me know. Alex@woke.as is my email. So reach out and hopefully let's get some more crazy mofos on the show, as I'm having a great time. Love to you all. Enjoy it.
Are you ready to get woke? Welcome to the Woke as podcast with your host, Alex Lazarev.
Who is this?
This is Sasha. How you doing, JP?
My intuition told me that my caller ID told me that it was you.
There it is. Sometimes the technology works. So first thing, let me just say, I know you hear it a lot, but my wife is a huge fan of yours, so she really appreciates your stuff. So I just want to put that out there.
Awesome. That feels good to hear. Thank you for letting me know that.
Not me. I'm mainly doing this for her.
Oh yeah,
Cool.
Don't think I didn't hear the passive-aggressive insult of
excellent.
Not mentioning you, but deliberately. My wife thinks you're awesome.
Just wanted to make sure we're clear. But in all seriousness, thanks for coming on. I realize you have no idea who I am, what I've done, or where I'm going. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on my podcast anyway.
For sure, I'm happy to, and I don't think I have a clue who I am, what I've done, or where I'm going. As I stumble through this mystery of life, I have my opinions, but they're probably not correlated to who I actually am. So it's nice to not know who I am while I don't know who you are.
It just sounds like Alzheimer's. I think I'm just going to call this episode Alzheimer's Between Two Funny Guys. And that'll just be...
That I like that. Like two guys that know nothing about anything, talking about everything as though they know everything about everything.
Two guys not getting to know each other. Two lost men failing to connect profoundly on a podcast. That's
Absolutely.
Beautiful. That's quite funny. So first things first, I just saw your video where you mentioned you're going to go on a comedy tour. Was this whole YouTube channel you're doing, was it all just a pre-planned, very sneaky way to build up a following so you could finally be a successful comedian? Is that what's actually going on?
That's the thing, the beautiful thing about building up a following and then becoming a successful comedian is you don't have to be a good comedian once you already have people that like you. The hard way to become a comedian is like to be a comedian and then have to be good enough that people want to watch you. But it's like, no, get people watching you and want to watch you no matter how good or bad or terrible you are.
That's genius. It really is. I did it the opposite way. Because I did stand-up from 1997 to 2010, pretty much full-time, and I was extremely funny, opened for some huge people. A lot of people said I was very funny, won an award or two, but
nice.
It didn't matter, because I did it in the wrong way. I needed to be popular first, and then I was just pure funny without any real following, and it went nowhere, frankly. I made a living, but then what? Nothing.
You know, it's fascinating, like the day and age we live in, social media, did you hear about it? Hear when people talk like that. But anyway, the day and age we live in, it is so different where if you develop a following, and granted, like I think many followings are developed with great merit, like there's great consistent offerings to the world, great work that's put out, thus the following gets accumulated. And I know there's some frivolous followings that's like, wow, there's nothing but emptiness there. But given that you can have a following and then it's like, okay, now I can like just put anything out there with the following. It's just such a weird situation. And I look at myself like when I go out and do comedy, I've got the upcoming comedy tour, like you mentioned, and I've been doing a lot of book shows to promote my book, which are basically like comedy/authenticity shows. I find that it's like a great place of liberation I'm in where I don't have to do stand-up comedy when I'm doing stand-up comedy, because I think stand-up comedy, and I'm preaching to the choir on this, you know much better than I look at stand-up comedy as a very specific art form that I have a lot of respect for. And I wouldn't say that what I do when I'm standing up doing comedy, I wouldn't say that's necessarily stand-up comedy, because essentially, like, I've already won the audience over before I show up, because they've watched a bunch of my videos. They already like me. We're in rapport. Whereas I would imagine with the true raw stand-up comedy you've done, where you go out, you play to, like, here's a bunch of drunk people who don't know me. One of the most important pieces of that art form is like winning them over in the first 30 to 60 seconds. And that's something like, that's a piece of the art form. It's like, wow, I'm grateful I don't have to do that, because that seems like the hardest part. But I'm curious, like, is that halfway true from your point of view?
It's 100% true, dude. When I was starting out, I remember in 2000, 2001, I came over to London because I'm Canadian, and there's no show business in Canada, all right? Unless you're playing hockey, no one cares about you. That's just
so true.
No, it's so true. You're American or Canadian?
Yeah, I'm American.
But you know what's true anyway.
Sure.
So I did this show. I used to go on this show called The Gong Show in the Comedy Store in London, and it was so brutal. There's an MC with a huge fucking gong, and he's got a gong stick, and there's 3 audience members with red cards, and I think you know where this is going. You get up on that stage, and if you're not funny, fucking immediately the cards go up, you get gonged off in humiliation. Wow. And I got very, very good, and I eventually, won that show and whatever. But I got very good at it because you had no choice. So you had to go up there and fucking give him absolutely your best joke with 100% confidence, or you're done. And after developing that skill, it's literally one of the most important things that there is. You got to prove that you're funny right away, or you lose them. So yeah, that everything you said is absolutely true. Having people already like you, you can't really go wrong. It's such a cheat code. It's not even funny.
Yeah, and that it is a cheat code relative to true stand-up comedy, and that's why, like, out of respect to comics, because, like, man, that's an art form I respect as much as music, as any other art form. That's why I don't like to say I do stand-up comedy when I'm doing live shows, because it's like I have this cheat code that makes what I do something different, and it's like what I do. It's like I basically go on stage being JP, period. And it's like, it's a great thing that I can do, but I wouldn't just say, like, that's stand-up comedy. And I'm curious, if you were, you showing up just raw naked to an audience, gotta win them over, they don't know who you are, they're already skeptical, like, okay, this guy's gonna try to make me funny, so there's like some level of defense, or make me laugh, some level of defense already up, like, you think you can make me laugh? Like, if you were deconstructing the art of winning an audience over almost immediately, like, I don't know, is there a way to deconstruct that and a little bit of an algorithm, if you will, to making it happen from your experience?
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, I talk about this. So I'll give you so it gives you some context. I'll give you the 30-second version of my life story, because I recognize you have zero idea about this guy. Real simple. So I just started doing stand-up when I was 17, broken home, so I just started doing it, ran away to England, became a professional, and then in my late 20s, realized I was horrible with women, absolutely brutally horrible, even though I was performing in front of 400 people and being paid to do it. Couldn't say hi to a girl, so I got into pickup, and I started, I basically started chatting up girls on the streets, because I hated booze and smokes and clubs and all that shit, and it was so fake. So I basically started chatting up girls, doing something called day game. And basically, I had a video go viral. I had like a million views of me just literally being myself, going around telling girls that they're beautiful and can I have their phone number, and getting their number, just basically flirting with girls, being myself. That went viral, and then I started a whole business where I literally traveled around the world for years, teaching guys how to be authentic and connect with women by being themselves and not lying or manipulating, but just being like, I like you, I want to take you on a date, like, what's your name? Just doing that. So that was a whole thing, and I went around the world, and that was a great time. And in the meanwhile, I just sort of stumbled on the spiritual path like people do. And then in the last couple of years went super profound, and I've done ayahuasca in San Pedro and fucking almost died multiple times and all this crazy ass shit. Finally to realize that all I really needed to do was sit under a tree and listen to the universe, and all the answers were inside me. Anyway, who knew? Who knew? Nobody told me. I had to go to Peru and fucking die and shit my pants.
Who
That's the
knew?
way I did it.
I still don't know, even though you just told me that. That's how much I don't know.
But anyway, so that's been the journey, and it's just been a journey of finding myself and being a funny clown, and just doing my thing. So to answer your question, I've been teaching, and I've taught courses to groups on how to do stand up. And the first thing you do, and it is for me, like, you have to fuck with the audience's assumptions, because they always assume something. So the example I used to give, there was this one comedian that had this big nose, and every time he walked up on stage, the whole audience was thinking, "Look at your fucking nose, it's huge." So what he'd do is he'd walk up on stage, he'd look at the audience, he'd turn his head over here to the left, he'd turn his head over on the right, so everyone gets a huge view of his nose. Everyone's laughing at him, of course, and what does he say? He looks at the audience and says, "Hey, you ever notice that in pictures, on some angles, no matter what you do, your nose just looks big? Have you guys noticed that?" So he makes fun of himself, and of course everybody laughs. He releases that tension. Now he can do the show. And that's the formula.
Fuck with their assumptions in a way that creates tension, and then release the tension.
Absolutely. For me, I had to do this. This was very, when I was doing comedy in the early 2000s, very hostile towards Americans. The Iraq, the wars were on in Iraq. You did not want to be an American. So as soon as I went up and said, "How's it going, guys?" immediately you could just sense the tension of like, it was brutal. So I immediately was just be like, "Yeah, all the people who love Americans, make some noise!" And it would just be quiet. And I'd hold it, and I'd go, "Well, that's nice. I feel that hatred. A good thing I'm Canadian, you fuckers." And then boom, explosion of laughter. They love me. Show goes on. And that was literally what I did for years, because I had no choice. I would have been crucified.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I appreciate that lesson. That's a great, like, North Star. Like, fuck with their assumptions right off the bat. I like that.
You have no choice. But so seriously, I'm very curious about you. What was your deal? Like, what's your first? What are you, a comedian? Are you a therapist? Are you both? What were you first? I mean, what the hell is who's this guy? My audience wants to know, who the fuck is this guy?
The answer is yes. Next question. So who I am? I think what I was first was a comedian. Sound like a broken record, sound like I'm just telling you about your life, but how I dealt with pain as a child is I made fucking people laugh. I feel insignificant inside, but I don't know how to actually feel that reality, so I'll make people laugh so that I can feel significant for about 3 minutes, because I made them laugh, and it doesn't last long, so I got to make them laugh again, or someone else laugh. So I get a lot of repetitions of reading people, like, what do I need to say? Who do I need to become to make them laugh? And then how do I need to deliver it? So the comedic training started from a very early age. And then professionally, though, I was more of a therapist first, working under the umbrella of a coach, doing emotional healing coaching with clients since my early 20s, and did that for 15 years, and that, working with people in the realm of the human heart, their pain, and also that very much was mirroring my journey of, like, me now, like, looking at my pain and embracing it rather than just using comedy to escape it, and actually on the contrary of, like, now using comedy to understand my pain and embrace it and help me heal it rather than escape it. That was there. And then 13 years into my career, if I can use such an adult sounding word, I decided, like, I think it'll be a bad idea, bad for business, to start making comedy videos as a way of sharing my perspective, but I can't not do it. Like, I just have the creative urge to do it. So that's what I started doing, and a lot of the material that I put out comedy-wise absolutely has a deeper intended message, and it's material that comes from, I think, the deeper realms of the human heart and psyche, helping people see the unseen, showing people the obvious that's there that we all most of the time pretend like it's not there. But my work with people over the course of the 15 years of doing emotional healing work has really taught me a lot of, like, what's in the psyche that's not so obvious on the surface, what's in the unconscious, and what's really common in all of our unconsciouses, and how do we compensate for that externally? And that's just sort of like an endless supply of material for comedy, and ideally using comedy as a way of delivering deeper perspectives to help people become more self-aware.
Yeah, that about sums it up. It's one of the things I kept hearing. It's funny. It's like this irony. When I was doing comedy, I had so much energy, and I was young, and I was I just was one of these comics that I just believed there was nothing was off topic. 100% believer in freedom of speech. If it's funny, it's funny. It doesn't matter what you say. It does. I don't care if it was funny. It's funny. So it was very, very funny. But I wasn't really awake. I wasn't woke. I wasn't woke as fuck. Which, by the way, is the name of the podcast, JP, if you're wondering. What's the podcast now? It's the Woke as Fuck podcast, JP.
And I've got Woke as Fuck t-shirts. Have you seen those yet?
Dude, that's the reason that was the moment where I'm like, I have to reach out to this guy, because I saw the shirt. I'm like, he's promoting my podcast. He doesn't even know it. I need to get him on the podcast because he's wearing the fucking shirt. So I literally like, yeah, I should actually get him on the podcast. He's great. So here we are. But I was doing all this comedy, and I had this moment of clarity that completely like blew me away, which was I read this book about this woman called Renee Case, who created a formula based on an old Canadian native recipe that was called Essayac, which cured cancer, and it's quite famous, and she cured a lot of people. And I read it, and I kind of started understanding. This is like 2009, 10. I understood, like, oh, everything is a lie. Everything they're telling us about disease, health, governments, all fucking bullshit. I just started waking up, and I did this one comedy show where I thought, you know what? I don't care if it's funny. I'm gonna tell people the truth. I'm just gonna do. I had a 20-minute slot. I was headlining this little club, and I thought I'm gonna do 10 minutes of just normal funny jokes, and then for 10 minutes I'm gonna talk about the cure for cancer that exists and no one knows about, and I'm gonna see what happens. I don't care if they hate me. I'm just gonna talk. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So I did the show. It was really funny for 10 minutes, and I'm like, hey guys, you know what? I don't know if this is going to be funny. I'm going to talk to you about this book I read. It's a fucking cure for cancer, and I'm going to talk about it. So I talked about it, and I told them the whole deal, that this woman saved all these people's lives, and she was amazing. And when she died, they went to her house, the government, they burnt down her house, they burnt down all her research because they didn't want the cure for cancer to get out. Now, who thinks that's true? And about a third of the audience put their hands up, and I said, who thinks I'm totally full of shit? About a third of the audience put their hands up, and I said, who isn't sure, but they're going to go figure it out? And about the other third put their hands up. And I said, okay. And after that show, people kept walking up to me going, God, dude, I had no fucking idea. You opened up my eyes. This has changed my life. I'm going to go and find out more, and I want to find out what else is true. And that was a moment of clarity where I was like, wait a minute, stand-up isn't just about making fucking people laugh. You can actually wake people the fuck up. And that's what my life has been since then. Even though I haven't really been doing that much comedy, a little bit. In my own way, I'm always that's my life's purpose. I'm only here to wake people up to realize that we are the all that is, and we're all one, and all of this separation shit is absolute horse shit, and let's all just love each other and wake up. And that's what my podcast is.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think comedy is I don't know if it's the most important or the most powerful way to make people wake people up, but it might be. Like, first off, it's a form of communication that people pay attention to. It's like, it's inherently interesting. And then I also think psychologically, people are in a less defended state when they're listening to comedy because it's a language of playfulness. So if you have a message and you're just telling someone, here's the truth, here's what you need to believe, like, it's so like it's natural to have psychological defense where it's like we're resisting what we're being told. Even if what we're being told is true, even if it's good for us, we're fighting it before we even consider it. But with comedy, because it's like the energy of it, the communication of it, it doesn't look like there's anything to defend against. Therefore, we don't defend against it as much. So I think the messages that it can contain can go in and we can actually consider them. Doesn't mean we brainwash an audience with it, but it means they can at least consider the message before they reject it. I think that's brilliant. One of the first comedians that I saw doing this was Bill Hicks. Mm-hmm. And, I got into Bill Hicks after he had already died. But when I got into Bill Hicks, I was just
I prefer you. I don't like using the word death, JP. I really feel it's really has all this negative content. Let's just say moved on to his next physical form. Let's just say that.
I appreciate that. He never died. He did reincarnate. He transitioned into a next life, and I'm also offended that we're alluding to the idea that time exists. So he incarnated into a parallel life that we would deem to be his next incarnation if we were to believe in time, which we won't.
There you go.
So, but yeah, when I saw Bill Hicks, on video, I was just like, wow, this guy, he is unapologetically coming with a message. And he's got passion behind it. And it's like not just he's the angry preacher on the street corner yelling his message at people. No, he's got a beautifully, artistically crafted comedic delivery. And there's no question, there is passion and purpose coming through. It's very inspiring to see.
Yeah, man. He's I got like top three would be Bill Hicks, Richard Pryor, and probably George Carlin, the people who are really bringing the truth. And people ask me what makes great comedy, and it's like the ability to speak about pain in a truthful way. Just be fucking honest, be authentic. That's it.
Talking about, and I think a dimension of that, the truth is you're inherently then talking about things that freaking matter. You're not. My girlfriend and I watched a comedy show on Netflix. I think I don't pronounce his name right, but Azaz.
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm.
So I like all disclaimers, like no judgment, but like to me, his comedy, like it didn't vibe with me. Like his delivery is awesome. He's a genius at what he does. But to me, he wasn't talking about shit that's real. He's talking about like dating apps and like in reality TV shows. It's like, Jesus, like I don't care about any of this because it's like it's so inherently meaningless to me. But like then you get the George Carlins talking about the environment, like shit that matters. Bill Hicks, it's wow, like that just really engages me so much.
Yeah, dude, I feel exactly like you. I went to a big comedy club here in London. The bouncer knows me. I'm like, I'll just go in and just see what's going on. Dude, it was so disappointing. It's just watching these people push these buttons that will get a laugh, but there's nothing behind it. There's no depth. There's no intelligence. There's no wisdom. Nothing. And it's like if you've seen one of these guys, you've seen them all. And actually seeing that show, this was a few months ago, I kind of felt almost heartbroken that I wasn't doing comedy because I know I have so much to offer now as opposed to then, and it's almost like, man, I don't know, I'm doing what I'm doing, but at some point I see myself having to go back because it's just there's no real comedians out there. That's the truth. There's no real if real means really being authentic and talking about pain and actually talking about shit that could actually somehow influence someone's life or make them wake up in any way, there's probably a couple of guys out there, and I haven't even found them yet if they're alive. I don't even know where they are. I don't watch a hell of a lot of stand-up comedians, but some that I appreciate who I think to a larger or smaller degree have that element of authenticity and talk about real stuff. I think Louis C.K., in my opinion, does a great job. I think Dave Chappelle does a great job. I think Joe Rogan does a good job of it. And I think like it in his own way, Bill Burr does. Like, I don't know that Bill Burr knows how much awareness he's bringing. Like, I don't know if he does it consciously. And I don't think any of those guys I just mentioned is the next George Carlin. There isn't going to be a next George Carlin, but I appreciate the messages that those guys bring. Louis C.K. is funny as fuck. He's really, really funny. I still call everyone faggot to this day. I mean, literally, I'll just be like, hey, what's up, faggot? And people are like, what? I'm like, he's my friend. He's a faggot. He is. I
love it. I thought I was going to die from lack of oxygen. I forget which of his specials it was where he was going into the faggot, cunt, nigger, deer. It was just like... Wow, I lost it.
It's so good. It's so good. Now here's a question. I'm curious. How much comedy is going on in your regular everyday life when the camera's off and you're just with your partner, with your friends? Mm-hmm. Do you sometimes, because like everyone asks me this, because on stage I was super fucking hyper, and when I was younger, for me it was an ego thing. I had to prove that I was the funniest guy in the room. I'm in my 20s. I was very funny. I was always on, and now I'm not. I just like when I feel that inspiration, like something happens, I see something really stupid. I'm like, what is this? Are you fucking? And I'll just go off on a rant. But it's not like I desperately need to be. I don't have that. So just curious, like what level of
Yeah, it's definitely not everywhere, every time am I being funny or trying to be funny. In social situations, it's more amplified. If I'm with a group of people or, beginning a meeting with a group of people or going out to dinner, yeah, I'll be on a little bit. I'll be in performance mode and I'll be out to make people laugh. Not exclusively, like let's have some real discussion too, but like there will be a little performance and like, yeah, I'm insecure enough that I need to hope people will value me because I may make them laugh. So that's a part of it. And then I think more in my private life with my girlfriend, it's smaller, but it's something I so value with her as a way of connecting, where her and I will get in a playful just session with each other, and she starts laughing, and that like just fuels me. That tickles my heart. It's connection is happening, and so like, and I'm not doing like nobody would laugh at what I'm saying in those times but her. It's just like such nuanced, like inside stuff that's happening. So yeah, it's like there's a time and a place for everything. And in my personal life, yes, comedy is there. The more social of a situation, the more comedy you'll see. And the more personal the situation, the less of it you'll see, though it's still there. It's just a smaller ratio.
right. It's like
I think the person who always is needing to be comedic has a manic disorder.
I don't know if it's manic. It's just like for me, I just didn't feel any love as a kid. I was so, like no dad, and my mom was just yelling at me all the time and throwing shoes at me and shit. I was good at dodgeball, but man, I didn't have any love. So finally I realized, I can be funny and people like me. I want to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved, right? It's as simple as that.
For sure. And honestly, I think the desire to be loved and therefore the pain of being unloved is what can drive some people to be manic, whether it's manically depressed or manically laughing. And I don't mean that at all in a negative connotation or necessarily an extreme clinical, gotta be in a straitjacket connotation, but I think Heath Ledger's character of the Joker and the Batman movie 10 years ago, whenever that was, that's a great archetype. Like, here's a guy, he's literally got, his smile is made out of scars. It's made out of his pain. And he can never not smile because of his scars. And it's so obvious that his laughter it's just pure pain. So I think that's what I would call like an extreme version of like someone who's manically comedic. And that is an extreme version nonetheless.
Yeah, the Joker, he would be someone to have at a party and have a good time. That'd be great.
I would think so. Like, he's going to slice some people's throats. But like, there's going to be tension. You don't know who it's going to be.
That's right.
And then, you get relief when you find out the first one at least isn't you. It's like, this is great.
Died. That's great.
There's nervous laughter. I'm terrified.
So we've been talking a lot about this almost could be billed as like comedy talk, comedy time with two clowns. But let's get a little bit more serious. Let's talk about your spiritual journey, because actually the Woke as Fuck podcast, it's about me talking to people who are on their spiritual journey. So where did that start? Where did you even have the thought of like there's something more to me than this human douchey,
Yeah,
dude.
And it's funny because my exact words would be pretty close to those exact words. There has to be something more. I think you said it more elegantly and precisely than me, like this human douchiness. I was going to say there has to be something more than the living off the meaning of accumulating money, accumulating status, fucking kids too. Like, there has to be something more than that. And And that would have been in my late teens, 18, 19, that I started asking that question. And that question didn't register in that like formulated language. It was more of a feeling of emptiness. That's how the question started to register. So I started searching, not knowing what the hell I was searching for, and initially not knowing that I was searching. So my search started by dropping out of college after a few months, and like that's scary. It's like I guess I'll just be homeless. Like I so have no idea what the hell I'm gonna do. I've just thrown my life away leaving college, but like I could feel how there's no life for me through college. And then yeah, when I was 20, I got connected with someone I would consider absolutely a powerful mentor, and he had a depth to him. You know, he had a spiritual life. He was pretty darn woke. So he was engaged with realms of life and meaning and purposes that I didn't know existed, but it was so inspiring because to me he was a doorway that opened up a world beyond the five senses and beyond the tangible world. And I think inner fulfillment, peace, and real happiness, not gratification, but real happiness comes from what's beyond our five senses. So that really started my journey, and he recommended I read a book called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. Freaking
Oh man.
That book game changer for me.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, so you know, like I read that book, I'm like, wow, I don't feel like I'm learning anything from this book. I feel like I'm remembering what I've known. I just forgot that I knew what I've known. So like, this is awesome. It really was. And that completely changed how I saw the world, how I saw myself, and really got me in a curious mindset and a very insecure mindset as well. Like it was very scary. It's like, okay, I don't know anything. I don't know like what I am, what I'm supposed to be doing. But like that kind of childlike curiosity that comes with this natural insecurity of what will I know? When will I know it? And what will it be? That was such a nurturing place to be, very freeing place to be.
Nice. Yeah, that book absolutely blew me away. You must have also read Autobiography of a Yogi by this point.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely one of my early ones. I don't know. Are you and I the same person?
We're pretty much the same person, yeah.
Okay.
Only one of us got the looks.
One of us should donate all of our vital organs to the other so we can have more stem cells and therefore develop stronger connective tissue so that we can engage in life a little bit more.
I think I'd be more cocky if I knew I had double the stem cell and then, double the chance of surviving some horrific accident. I'd just be doing more drugs. I don't know if that's actually a good thing.
I don't know either, but
What are you doing tonight? I'm going partying. I got JP's semen and blood and guts right in this bag. I don't give a fuck. I'll be fine.
And I totally don't care if I black out and fall down those steps and hurt my shoulder because I have a lot of stem cells and very strong connective tissue because of it.
My memories and experience have been transferred also to a part of JP's brain, so it's fine if I die. Totally fine. That would be creepy as well. Like someone will ask me a question, I'd be like, well, I would say this, but actually, JP would say this. You pick whichever one is more appropriate for you. Those are your options. It's totally fine.
There's two options on everything.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. When you read Autobiography of a Yogi, did you get into for a while or still going the quote unquote study of the Self-Realization Fellowship? What were they? Monthly or weekly meditation lessons?
No, I don't even. Was that an option? I didn't even know that was an option.
Yeah, it was an option. It's like donation based. They send you something in the mail every month or something. Like they were lessons.
Oh, I completely stole my copy of that book. If the author's dead, you shouldn't be paying money for it. That's my personal philosophy. So as long as you're alive, I'll be encouraging people to buy your stuff.
Yeah, that checks out. That really does. And I think that would hold up in a court of law because you called it a philosophy, which could be likened to a religion, which means you're practicing freedom of religion, which can let you get away with a lot in the U.S. at least.
God bless America. What's your give me your little do you have a spiritual routine? What do you do to stay connected to the beautiful love of the universe? Because it's a big battle. I think I don't know if you've done any or heard of this, but I did some primal therapy as well. You must know about it. You were a therapist, so just opening up that heart and actually feeling is it completely profound, and it's a real struggle to stay in that heart space in this modern world. What do you have anything you've done or anything that's for you huge in helping you?
To me, the most powerful thing that I've done and continue to do is my version of what you just said, opening your heart, getting primal. So being connected to my emotions is the most powerful part of my spiritual practice. Carl Jung once said, feelings are the language of our soul. So I think emotions, which are something that's so easy to want to bypass in the name of spirituality, to me is actually the most direct gateway to our soul. It's the language of the heart. So being very connected to my emotions is my biggest practice, and I suck at it most of the time, to be honest. And in my relationships, being connected to my girlfriend at a heart level, bringing my emotions up, not closeting some emotions because I'm afraid that they're going to scare her or make her, but it's like just being unapologetically true. And I think we are very primal people, and I think our primalness is paradoxically an incredibly direct doorway to our spiritualness. So yeah, raw emotion, vulnerability is a big thing for me. And then, I do 10 minutes of meditation a day. Actually, I've upped it to 15. I used to do 20, and then I found I didn't do meditation when I was doing 20-minute long meditations. I just didn't get to it. So I find a dose right now, 15 minutes is something I'll do consistently. And then not to get lost in a theoretical world, because it's very tempting, but I love to practice the self-awareness of questioning the hell out of me. Like, I like to look at my beliefs and not believe my beliefs, like poke holes in them, and not take myself too seriously. Like, value myself, value my beliefs, yet not take them so seriously. So those are important parts of my spiritual practice. And I would also say my videos, my book, like the work I do professionally is a very integral part of my spiritual practice. A lot of what is portrayed in a video is essentially a self-awareness practice that I'm filming.
Interesting. Very interesting. I don't know. I mean, for a proclaimed, spiritual guru, I just don't know if 15 minutes a day is cutting it, JP. I mean, it really seems a bit on the...
You'd think I should be having like an ayahuasca smoothie every morning after I just crush 3 hours of hardcore yoga, smoothie right before my 6-hour meditation. So yeah, you'd think so. I don't know. I guess I have room for improvement.
I would love to share with you the one. I'm the worst meditator on planet Earth. I got kicked out of Vipassana on day 9. They threw me out.
Wow, what did you do?
They threw me out. You know what? You won't guess,
JP. Did you clear your throat?
I did not clear my throat, but what I did do is it was so fucking boring, and I went in there with no meditation experience. I just started subtly fucking with people and making people laugh, and they threw me out.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I think you deserved it. You deserved that. Really,
I 100% deserved it. But just in the last year, I started doing something that I heard one of my spiritual teachers say. She heard another woman say she did, and it resonated so much when I heard it, and I started doing it. And this is what allowed me to sit for hours and be totally blissed out and on another planet and connecting to source. And it's the simplest thing in the world, but should it work for you, you might freak out. So I'm just going to tell you for your own personal use. And it's just sitting and listening to the universe.
I like that.
It's not meditation because I'm not trying not to think. All I'm doing is actively listening, and in nature doing that. Like you're down in Costa Rica right now. If you were to go out and do this, you might be one of the people who will be like, "Holy fucking shit!" So it's profound.
I like that. My next meditation session, I'm going to be doing that. It's later today or tomorrow morning at the latest. I like that. I'm going to call that a listening meditation. Even though, You just said it's not a meditation, but I like that. Is listening? It sounds like it's a deliberate, like, let me open myself, surrender, and receive.
Yes.
Rather than this thought output.
That's right. That's right. And for me, it's been super, super amazing. Now, JP, I'm an expert at reading human body language, so I can tell, even though you had a great time, you've pretty much had enough of this podcast. And I respect that, so I'm going to...
Is that because you saw me just stand up and walk in the opposite direction? Or were you, like, you might have been reading into that wrong?
No, it's subtle, but I can tell when you look over at the time. That's the subtle... All right, this has been great. It's time to wrap. Yeah, there. That's the symbol I'm normally looking for. All right, sweet Charlie, let's keep it going there, pork chop. All right, we've had our fun. All right, wrap it up, big shooter. So before we do that, let me just ask you. So I know you're doing a comedy tour. You're kicking off. So why don't you let the listeners know? And hey, you know what? Even though you have no idea who I am, right now we're coming up to our 100,000th download of the podcast.
Nice.
So we're
Congratulations on that, brother.
Well, I had a little YouTube following before I got in there. So let the people know, and most of the people are actually in the States, so let the people know what you're doing, where they can come see your comedy, and if they want to follow you, if you want to plug something, this is the time to do it.
Yeah, brother, I love
Sell
plugs.
out.
Shameless. Let me hardcore. Your life is going to be absolute shit unless you give me money with what I'm about to sell you. Yeah, my first leg of the tour is going to be Boston, Brooklyn, Washington, D.C., So tickets just went on sale. So you can go to awakenwithjp.com/events. Everything's available there, and you're welcome to connect with me on social media. I'm always putting out content, videos on Facebook, YouTube, the other places I'm on, but it's like not as valuable of an experience. But all my social media handles are Awaken with JP. And if you find me offensive, then those are the places to deliberately avoid.
I thought there was going to be a different joke coming there. If you find me offensive, and then you could have gone super rude, or you could have subtly told people to go fuck themselves, but you went a different route, and that's fine. Awesome. Did you? We had fun, didn't we? We had a nice little fun chat.
You know, in the notes you sent me before this show, you definitely told me to tell you that I did have so much fun. This has been great from what you told me to tell you.
Yeah. You were supposed to do it without the explaining part. But anyway, it's fine. I could just edit that out later.
Sasha, this has been so much fun. I've had so much fun talking today with you. Thank you for having me on. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Scholar. That was there was a line there about my huge wiener that you heard about from one of your friends. Can you just read the line about the wiener?
That didn't come through in the email. But yeah, I'm sure, like, whatever.
It's fine.
Big, compensate for insecurities.